All right, I'm here at Versus in Orlando with the GOAT representing us, bro. Top 32. All right, Vic, what did you play?
We played Flunderies, budget, liraless, bad cards.
Bad cards? The birds, bro.
Only bad cards in this deck.
The birds.
Got top 32, 14th after Swiss into immediately breaking at my Top Cut match, but it is what it is.
Happens, bro. Variance is it.
But yeah, here's what we played.
All right.
I don't know where the third Robin went. We'll find it later. I actually don't know where the third Robin is. Super standard ratio for the most part. Some people play DD Crow instead of the second Stree. It went to the side for me because you need like 9 or 10 birds to comfortably be adventing, like small birds. And hitting the DD Crow always felt really bad because then it's not an additional resource later in the game.
Okay, fair enough. Are there any ratios you saw from other Flunder players that you liked more, or do you think your ratio is perfect?
It's whether or not. So I'm playing 42 cards. If you want to cut down to 40, you drop the Stree and that's it.
Okay. Fair.
There's a bunch of mandatory cards in this deck. You don't have a ton of space for tech cards or anything of that sort. As far as like the engine goes.
Okay.
You got good for tribute summons.
Okay.
You need 2 Empen. Hanko's Chow's build, I base my list mostly off of his, but that's why I'm at higher card count. The second Empen matters a lot. People play this deck, in my opinion, really slowly. This isn't a control deck, this is more of a mid-range deck, so if you can get an extra Empen on their turn and then summon Ryza over it, that extra card just lets you kill them the next turn, because Ryza has this funny line of text that says you can tribute 1 tribute summon monster for it, so you don't actually have to use 2 tributes, so you can go like, if you hard draw either one of these, you can go Eagle Search the other, summon the Empen, get the unexplored wins for next turn, and then summon Ryza over it. And then if there's nothing good to put back in the graveyard, you can just recycle the Empen. So when you start your turn, you have Empen and unexplored wins in hand, and you'll have a monster, so you can start trading over this stuff.
Okay, dope. I also noticed the Mega Ryza was absolutely insane in the mirror match, bro. I saw that resolve like, what, 5 times?
Yeah, so it's very important in the mirror match. Winning the mirror match, I think Fletcher was overall more prepared for it. First of all, love that guy, shout out to him. But he lost the die roll and had to lose his only Ryza to play for the Advent, and that really put him behind.
Okay.
So yeah, very important card in the mirror match. Only thing is, this Apex might have been a Snowl in hindsight. This is a very unpopular opinion. I think Snowl is good. He doesn't interact with tokens, but he's good to every other deck. I would have sided the Apex main the Snowl because there's a lot of Mystic Mine at this tournament, and it came up often. I had both Empens on board, an Advent, and they mined me, so I had to wait to draw into one of my tributes as opposed to Adventing for the Snowl to tribute over it. As well as the Snowl really plays into my game plan of just kill them the next turn, giving you the turbo, the 2 extra normal summons on your turn, and he's also the only Flunderies monster that is a proactive disruption with a quick effect of the book, so that's the biggest weakness of the deck. It's like Orcus, all your interruptions are very telegraphed, like, hey, when you normal summon, there's going to be a map trigger, and the only unknown really is the Dreaming Town.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, you were trying to play this deck a little bit faster than most people were saying, rather than a control mid-range.
This is literally Winged Beast Orcus trying to end the game turn 3.
Okay.
And that's why it matters a lot that the second Empen tier gets you the extra resources.
Okay, dope.
It's like Heart being legal. That was only slightly cope. Anyways.
From humble Orcus beginnings to birds now.
Yeah. You play all these broken cards. This is super standard. You play all 3 of all the good ones. This was a bit of a meta call, so the only time this deck struggles is going second.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pile decks, and in testing, whenever you activate this, it strikes the fear of God into people. How you win most games going second. I think Rise off Eagle is bait most of the time. I'd rather just activate Unexplored Winds and summon Empen 3 times, and then get 3 searches and send 3 cards. But yeah, everything else is super standard. It's also what helped me win the mirror a lot.
Right.
Because if you can watch the feature, I added 1 on his turn, 1 on my turn. I think he didn't notice, so I activated it.
Right.
Apex negated, and I activated the second, and he looked down, he looked up, he's like, oh, there was a second one, I lose now.
Yeah.
So it came a lot for the mirror.
And most Flunder players are on 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think overall it's correct to play 1. This was a bit of a medical. I expected to see more mirrors, but I only saw 1 the whole time.
Yeah.
But it helps a lot going second, and that's the only time this deck struggles. If you go first and like resolve Empen once, you've already won.
Yeah, fair enough.
Actually, on that point, I'm going to circle back a little bit to the Bear statue.
Sure.
This card is not necessarily as as important as everyone gives it credit for. This is like a plan B. Because I only summoned this 3 times in the whole tournament, and one of it was to crash with the Sangan and D-Shifter so they didn't get a resource next turn.
Okay, fair.
Protecting the statue isn't nearly as important. So I would give up a statue turn 1 to get an extra resource off a toucan or something. So that way, once they have acknowledged, oh, there's no barrier statue, I don't have to play around it, you grab it on their turn, then once you resolve Dreaming Town Grave Effect, then you establish the statue. They've already probably used their like imperm or their drop-ins to try and stop you from playing.
Right, yeah.
So this is more of a nail in the coffin rather than a floodgate.
Yeah, because like if it's already on board when they start their turn, like they either had the droplets or they didn't, and then at that point your best disruption is like Dreaming Town, right?
So yeah, like a naked barrier statue is the worst barrier statue. The barrier statue in hand, it's protected, they can't interact with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Then you let them dark ruler you and like 2 for 1 your interruptions that way, because M-Pin is a floodgate, but
Yeah. I get what you're saying. It's like the difference between having like a window on board turn 1 and then summoning off Schism.
Window, like mid.
Yeah.
Once they've used resources that would out it normally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You play all the good pot cards. This is better than Extravagance. You'd rather see a single card than 2 random cards.
True.
This card was probably a mistake to play. I feel like I would have rather had another hand chopper on this call by. Whenever I drew it, it didn't feel that good. I was scared of Lancia. I didn't play until a lot of people decided Lancia. I played a ton of pile decks. They all made set up side first, and this deck does not lose the side. That's why we played it.
Yeah.
So it probably comes out when we go to 4v1 and cut another thing to 40. But I'm probably not playing this going forward.
Yeah, it's probably like part of like the meta call of picking a deck like Flunder, where everyone is trying to scythe lock, and then you just don't care about it, and half their main deck is dead.
Yeah, it's actually, if you look at the top 4 for this YCS, it was Pure Eldritch, Flunder, Prankit, and another deck that didn't lose a scythe.
Yep.
So 75% of them didn't lose a scythe because that's what everyone was prepared for.
Right, totally.
And going second cards, broken, best card in the deck, worst tech card I played, and I resolved this card like twice.
Okay.
So. So here, Book of Moon is a single best card in this deck. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This is basically offensive Advent. It fulfills the same role, but half the time when you go second, it just trades 1 for 1 or 2 for 1 with a negate. So like into these Soul Sword boards, if you book their Sheesh out, that's their blackout and their Sheesh out. Or if you don't know if they have a blackout, you can just book your own bird and dodge it.
Okay.
And then Dark Ruler is on the same line as. The second I explore, when going second is the hardest thing for this deck. People don't ever negate Pots of Prosperity game 1, so it's really easy to find this. And yeah, D-Shifter, I resolved I think 4 times the entire tournament. Once was in the mirror when I couldn't side out the 3rd and I drew it.
Yeah.
Twice were against the dude who bricked, and only one of them mattered. So again, this is a card like Barrier Statue. This is a bomb for you. You don't need to play it. You don't need to draw it to win, but like it just increases your chances a lot. Like if this card gets banned, the deck will be fine. I doubt it'll ever get hit. And this was the single worst hand trap I played all weekend. This should have been a bell or something, for like because I expected 3 main decks at the YCS: 60 card pile, Prankit's Adventure, and the Mirror. I chose to respect the 60 card pile the most, which I played 8 of them in Switch, which came up. Then the Mirror a little bit, and I respected Prankit's the least, which in the end bit me a little bit. But yeah, this should have been a bell or something. I was just felt like this card didn't impact any of the games I drew it, or when I drew it I just had bad hands, so it's probably just confirmation bias.
Okay, question for you. I've heard some people say that going forward, hand traps would be better than board breakers in this deck. Would you disagree with that because you main the Dark Rulers?
It depends what you're going into. Like I expect a bunch of 60 card like Hulk Adventure combo decks that always end on like 3 or 4 negates.
Yeah.
If that's the meta, Dark Rulers is correct. Now if we think we're going into like more Prankits and the Lubers, like yeah, the Dark Rulers will become bells, and the imperms will become like failures or something, whatever.
Right.
Most fit.
Yeah, a
but
week from now with the structure too, bells
really
can be crazy.
What you're playing into.
Yeah.
I played 8 pile decks over the course of my 11-round Swiss, and so the Dark Rulers came up a lot.
Okay.
The times where they were dead is the Striker matchup and the Flunder matchup.
Fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. The extra deck, I was maining Cherries until the last minute instead of Dark Ruler, and then decided it was bad. But here's the Cherries board if I was to play it. Oh, there's the Verbena.
We found it, nice.
We found the last Verbena. Yeah, these cards is what you expected to see, but we found out that in testing, as opposed to in theory, the pile decks, if you like cherries anything, they can just pivot super easily, so it doesn't matter what you cherries. And so yeah, dark rulers ended up being better. And
Okay.
It's better overall because like dark ruling for just a Griffin negate is oftentimes worth it because it lets you play.
Okay.
Then the only real cards in the extra deck. This is for the Christmas package. My one of my 2 losses in Swiss was to Invoked. Had nothing to do with this. I bricked game 3. I drew two Eagles, an Empen, a Book, and a Featherstorm. I drew that for 3 turns, but this in theory comes up, and then this is the only card you realistically make. It's to like out towers and stuff. Like once you've lost your Ryza, to out this card, because unaffected by stuff that doesn't target, so everything's smaller than 3k and you can't Empen half it, so it makes it really awkward. And then Zeus package, I almost made this in my top 32 match. I got drolled, I had the 3-card combo to make it, and then my field spell got ogred, so I didn't go into the extra deck once in the tournament.
Damn.
Then side deck. Tome Collector's broken, except when you draw 3 of it in your game 3. Yeah, that's what happened in the top 32 match. I opened all 3 of these, a Book and a Shifter, and then I drew a 2-camp for turn or something, and yeah, we just couldn't play.
That's rough.
Droll's really good, and it was mostly for the mirror. So it was the easy side up for Shifter. I thought about putting it in for other decks, but never really did. The side up for Barrier Statue, because when you're going second, it's often really bad, and this is another resource that you can grab off for Avina. Or like sometimes into the very heavy DPE decks, you side this in without siding out the Barrier Statue, because the DPE is going to be engraved at some point. If you can't street it during your turn, you can always decoy it afterwards. I respected back row a little bit. This is mostly for the Step 5 Eldritch deck, because you can usually run them out of 1 Floodgate through like Book of Moon and Unexplored Winds, like a Tikaboo or something, but you can never do multiples, so you really need this. I wouldn't even side this in the mirror because it doesn't stop them that much, because if people ever Cosmic me, I just summon 2 and grab it back, and then it was like it never happened. It just like delayed me like half a step. And then the going first blowout card.
The God card.
Yeah, this card's broken. I might have main decked it. I wasn't as ballsy as Fletcher was, saying that I was going to win die rolls. The counter trap is bad. Don't play it. It is almost always a worse search than the Dreaming Town, because the counter trap loses to every side deck under the sun. And yeah, that's basically it.
Nice. Is there anything you want to say about like the meta going forward with this deck, or do you think? What do you think about like things you might want to change or anything like that?
Konami banned D-Shifter, give me more birds. That's basically it.
True, there's the one missing board, right? A bird.
Yeah, there's 1 missing, but I'd like more. If this deck just had more engine and didn't brick, I think it'd be a lot stronger. I think people using D-Shifter is a bit of a crutch. Obviously, it's a strong card. I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't rely on non-searchable engine cards to win games.
True. Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, besides that, just a couple shout-outs. Shout out AJ for doing the profile.
Yo, what's up?
Shout out all my boys that support me all the way through the YCS shot. Versus games.
True.
I work here too, but they're cool. I like them besides the fact that I work here.
Nice.
Shout out to Fletcher, cool guy. I love playing with him. And yeah, hey, if I didn't think of you and you're like, why didn't you shout me out? Shout out to you too. I can't think of all the names right now.
Nice, the GOAT. All right, thank you, Victor. Appreciate that, man.
No problem.